Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Daf Dalet Amud Bet, starting from the two dots. We're beginning with a quote from the Mishnah, which I've already put in quotes. Ketzad, chal liyot b'sheni b'shabbat, kfarim v'ayarot gdolot korin bo bayom v'chulei. So if you look back at our Mishnah, you'll hopefully remember that this is the Mishnah asking how. How does this work? How does it work that sometimes the date of Megillah reading is moved earlier? And it begins to answer by giving all these different cases of when Purim can fall out. So the Gemara asks, Ma'ishna Reisha denaka tzidura diyarcha, u'ma'ishna seifa denaka tzidura diyome. What is the difference? Ma'ishna is a question word. It means what is the difference between the Reisha, the beginning of the Mishnah, the first part, which mentions the order of literally the order of the month, the order of the moon, meaning the dates of the month. And what is the difference between the Seifa, the second part of the Mishnah, that mentions the order of the days? In other words, the first part of our Mishnah focuses on dates, and the second part of the Mishnah focuses on days of the week. And the answer is, since you would get mixed up with it would become confusing, it mentions the order of the days. Rashi explains, and we'll read this Rashi inside, but for now I'll just summarize. Rashi explains that it would be too confusing to list the dates in the second part. You'd have to keep going back and forth between the dates and the day of the week. It'd be very confusing. And so it's easier to just tell you which day Purim is on and have it list the days of the week, and then you go back and fill in the dates, just the way we actually did when we were in the Mishnah, right? You have to put Purim on the day of the week and then figure out which date each day of the week falls out on. We'll discuss this further in class, but that's what the words mean in the Gemara here. Now we have another quote from the Mishnah. Chal hiyot be'erev Shabbat v'chulei. If it falls out, meaning if Purim falls out on Erev Shabbat, on Friday, etc., it then tells you who reads when Purim falls out on Friday. Matnitin mani. Our Mishnah goes according to whom? Or in English, according to whom is our Mishnah? I realize I've not been putting questions in red. I'll stop and put some of these questions in red. Rabbi, here's the response. Rabbi Yossi. It's either Rebbe's opinion or it's Rabbi Yossi's opinion. My Rebbe, what is Rebbe? Meaning, what is the opinion of Rebbe? Here's another question. Titania, as we learn in a Breita. Chal liyot be'erev Shabbat, kfarim v'ayarot gdolot makdimin liyom haknisa, u'mukfin choma korin bo bayom. The Breita begins, if Purim falls out on Friday, the villages and the big cities move their reading earlier to the Yom HaKnisa, to Thursday, and walled cities read on that day, meaning on the 14th. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says, Omer ani lo yidchu ayarot mimkoman, ela elu ve'elu korin bo bayom. So Rebbe says, I say we don't push the cities, meaning the big cities, from their place, meaning from their proper reading time. Rather, these and these, both the villages and the cities, both the cities and the walled cities, read on that day, on the 14th. My time is a Tanna Kama. What is the reasoning of the Tanna Kama? What's his rationale? The answer is Dichtiv, as it is written in the pasuk in Megillah Esther, Bechol Shana v'Shana. In each and every year, Megillah is read each and every year. Ma Kol Shana v'Shana ayarot kodmot l'mukfin, Afkan ayarot kodmot l'mukfin. So just as every year the big cities read before the walled cities, so too here, the cities should read before the walled cities. In other words, the Tanna Kama is most concerned about maintaining the order of the readings. The big cities, always read before the walled cities. Ve'ema, and I will say, this is an objection to the reasoning of the Tanna Kama, Bechol Shana v'Shana, maybe this verse, Bechol Shana v'Shana, actually implies Ma kol shana v'shana ein nidchin ha'irot mimkoman, af kan lo yidchu ha'irot mimkoman. Just as every single year the cities are not moved from their place, meaning the cities read in their proper time on the 14th, so too here the cities should not be moved from their place. They shouldn't be forced to read on a different day. No, shani hacha. This is different, or here it's different. Delo efshar, because it is not possible, or because it is impossible. In other words, the priority is given to maintaining the structure, and so we're not going to say that you can keep them on their same day. You can't work that out when Purim falls on Friday. You can't have both priorities met. So lo efshar, it's impossible, meaning it's impossible to meet the priority of having the walled cities come after the cities if you also want to not move the cities earlier. And so we prioritize keeping the walled cities after the cities. The Rebbe, and going back to Rebbe's opinion, the second opinion in the Breita that's quoted, my tama b'chol shana v'shana. What is the reason of b'chol shana v'shana? How do you explain this quote? Ma kol shana v'shana ein ha'irot nidchin mimkoman, af kan lo yidchu ha'irot mimkoman. Just as in every single year, the ayarot, the cities aren't moved from their place, right? They don't have to read earlier. So too here, they shouldn't be moved earlier. Ve'ema, and I will say, meaning I will object. Oh, I have to put this question in red. Right, maybe I'll object. B'chol shana v'shana, this verse actually means Ma kol shana v'shana ayarot kodmot lemukfin, af kan nami ayarot kodmot lemukfin. Just as every year the big cities, come before the walled cities, so too here the cities come before the walled cities. Then the Gemara responds to that objection. Shani hacha, it's different here, delo efshar, because it's not possible. Just the same as we saw before, it's not possible to preserve both of these priorities. So the Tanna Kama is preserving the first priority, that of having the cities always read before the walled cities, and Rebbe is prioritizing a different one, a different priority of not moving the cities off their proper date. My Rebbe Yossi. What is Rabbi Yossi? Meaning, what is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi? We saw earlier the answer of the Gemara was that this position could either be, right? It said it could either be Rebbe or it could be Rabbi Yossi. So what's the Rabbi Yossi that we're talking about? Who might match our Mishnah? Titania, as we learn in the Breita, Chaliyot be'erev Shabbat, mukfinu kfarim maktimin liyom haknisa, va'erok do korin bo bayom. If Purim falls out on Friday, then the walled cities and the villages move earlier to the Yom HaKnisa, to Thursday, and the big cities read on that day, meaning on the 14th. Rabbi Yossi says, Ein mukfin kodmin la'ayarot. The walled cities cannot read before the big cities. Ela el ve'elu korin bo b'yom. Rather, these and these have to read on that day, meaning both types of cities read on the 14th. My time is the Tanna Kama. What's the reasoning of the Tanna Kama? I'll put this in red also. Dichtiv, because it says in the pasuk, b'chol shana v'shana. And it's going to be very similar explanations to above. Ma kol shana v'shana ayarot ba'arba asar uzmano shel zeh lo uzmano shel zeh. Af kan ayarot ba'arba asar uzmano shel zeh lo uzmano shel zeh. Right? So just as on every year the cities read on the 14th and the time for this one is not the time for that one, meaning the cities and the walled cities don't read on the same day. So too here, the cities read on the 14th, and the cities and the walled cities don't read on the same day. You're welcome to pause the video here. I have just a few questions for you to answer. The first question is to list for yourself at least 3 question words that appear in this section of the Gemara. I want you to focus on what the question words are so that you can plug those back in. So list at least 3 question words and their definitions. And the second question is to think about our Mishnah and the 2 Braitot that we've seen presented here. So our Mishnah, you know where that is. The Braitot are each introduced by the word Tanya, and I'm going to underline them here. So here's one Tanya. Oh, sorry, I'm going to actually change the color of the font so you can notice it. Okay, so there's one Tanya, and here's the other Tanya. So each one of these Braitot and our Mishnah have different ways of, or have different opinions about what happens if the 14th falls out on Friday. So I want you to make a little calendar. You can do this however you want to do it. It could be multiple different calendars. It could be one where you mark in different colors, but calendars that show, according to the Mishnah, when does each type of city or place read if Purim falls out on Friday, if the 14th falls out on Friday, according to each opinion in each of the 2 Braitot, when does everybody read if Purim falls out on Friday? This will be written out on your question sheet also. Again, you're welcome to pause here. The rest of the video continues for a different time. Okay, I'm going back into the Gemara. So again, the Gemara wants to know, having given this Braita that presents the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the Gemara then asked, what's the reasoning of the Tanna Kama? And the Gemara answered that. And the answer was basically that it's always the case that the Ayarot, the cities, read on the 14th, and the walled cities don't read on the same day as the cities. But then the Gemara objects, Ve'ema, I will object, or I will say, B'chol shana v'shana, in each and every year, this pasuk actually means, Ma kol shana v'shana in mukfin kodmin la'ayarot, Afkan in mukfin kodmin la'ayarot. Maybe it just means that every single year, the walled cities don't come before the big cities. So too here, the walled cities don't come before the big cities. But the Gemara resolves that objection, or responds to that objection, doesn't accept it, and says, Shani hacha. No, it's different here. Delo efshar, because it's impossible. Again, it's impossible to preserve both priorities. It's impossible to say that they're going to not read on the same day, but you're also not going to have the walled cities before the big cities, because nobody can read on Shabbat. So this is the way it had to be. My time is Rabbi Yossi. What's Rabbi Yossi's reasoning? Rabbi Yossi, who has a different opinion than the Tanna Kama. Put this in red also. Bechol shana v'shana. So his reasoning comes from the same pasuk, in each and every year, meaning it should be the same in each and every year. Ma kol shana v'shana in mukfin kodmin la'erot, afkan in mukfin kodmin la'erot. Just as each and every year, the walled cities can't read before the big cities, so too here, the walled cities can't read before the big cities. Ve'ema, and I will say, again, an objection by the Gemara, Bechol shana v'shana, this verse actually means, Ma kol shana v'shana, zmano shel zeh lo k'zmano shel zeh, afkan zmano shel zeh lo k'zmano shel zeh. It just means that, just as every year, the walled cities, and literally this one's time is not the same as that one's time, meaning the walled cities and the big cities don't read on the same day. So too here, in this case, where the 14th falls out on Erev Shabbat, so too here, they can't read on the same day. Shani hacha delo efshar. And the Gemara responds, no, it's different here because it's not possible. Again, not possible to preserve both priorities, so Rabbi Yossi gets to choose which priority he wants. Now the Gemara leaves aside, we've established Rabbi's position, we've established Rabbi Yossi's position, but now we have a question about that position. V'savar Rabbi Ayarot lo zachinan liyom haknisa. Is it really true? I'll give it a question mark, exclamation point. Is it really true that Rabbi holds that the big cities don't get moved earlier to the Yom HaKnisa? V'hatanya, but don't we learn in a Braita? Here's our challenge proof. Don't we learn in a Braita? Chaliyot b'Shabbat, kfarim maktimin liyom HaKnisa. If Purim falls out on Shabbat, then the villages move it earlier to the Yom HaKnisa, to Thursday. Vayarok Dolot Korean Be'erev Shabbat, and big cities read on Friday, Umukvot Chomal Lemachar, and walled cities read the following day, meaning the day after Shabbat. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says, Omer Ani, I say, Hoil v'nidchu ayarot mimkoman, yidchu yom haknisa. Since the ayarot were pushed from their place, meaning they're supposed to read on Shabbat, but they can't read on Shabbat, so they have to read Friday. Yidchu yom haknisa, let them be pushed up earlier to the yom haknisa. And your first question for this section is, which position here matches our Mishnah? Hachi hashta. Literally, is this now or so now? This is it's a question mark exclamation point, right? Isn't this the same thing? Or this is the same thing. Let's look at this further. Hatam, there, zmanam Shabbati. Their time is Shabbat. V'hoil dinidchu yidchu. Their time was actually Shabbat, meaning the 14th is actually Shabbat. And since it was moved, meaning at the point at which you're already moving it off of Shabbat, the cities can't read on Shabbat. They have to be moved earlier. So let them be moved even earlier. It's not such a big deal. The hacha, and here, zmanam erev Shabbat. Here their time was erev Shabbat, meaning it turns out we've now clarified Rebbe's position. He does allow the ayarot to be moved earlier, but only when they're already being moved earlier anyway. If you can read on that day, if it's not trumped by the rule of not reading on Shabbat, then they should read on that day. Okay, final question in the Gemara. Kiman azah had amar bichelbo amar Rav Huna, purim shachal liyot b'Shabbat, hakol nidchin liyom haknisa. So kiman azah means according to whom does it go? Meaning we're trying to figure out, we're going to try to match this position of Rabbi Chelbo Amar Rav Huna with some Tanaitic position that we've seen. So according to whom does it go, that which was said by Rabbi Chelbo in the name of Rav Huna, Purim that falls out on Shabbat, everyone is moved to Yom HaKnisa, to Thursday. Kiman Azar are actually the question words here, so I'll put those in red. Hakol nidchin salkadaitach? Would you really think that everyone gets moved earlier? V'ha'ika mukfin, de'avdei lamachar. But there are the walled cities which do it the following day, meaning if Purim's on Shabbat, the walled cities actually read the next day, which is Sunday. Ella, rather, we're sort of amending the statements, kol hanidche yidche liyom haknisa. Everyone who gets moved, right? Kol hanidche, anyone who gets pushed to Yom HaKnisa, gets pushed to Thursday. Kiman, according to whom, or whose position is this? Kerebi. This is consistent with Rebbe's position. So we've clarified Rebbe's position, and we've matched this position quoted in the name of Rav Huna with the position of Rebbe. So my last question to you is to make a structure chart for this section. And to make sure, as you're making that structure chart, think also about the calendar that I asked you about in the previous video, and make sure you know where Rav Huna's statement fits in on that calendar. In other words, if Purim falls out on Shabbat, when does each type of city read? Okay, so the earlier question, the structure chart, and figuring out, making sure you know according to Rav Huna when each type of city reads. Again, these questions will be listed on a sheet that you can link to, so you'll see those in front of you also. The video stops here, but I'm going to go in and just fill in some colors so that you have a fully color-coded version that has yellow for the psukim and green for the answers. That's not going to be in the video, but you'll be able to view that when you view the question sheets. We'll stop here and pick up with the next section.